We are here today on the Glasson branch of the Lancaster Canal in England to demonstrate the functioning of canal locks. A lock is a chamber with gates to allow boats to go in and out and which can be filled with water and emptied again. At the top of the lock, where the canal is higher, there are the top gates, shallower in depth than the bottom, or tailgates, and usually ground paddles operated by winding gear like this. When these paddles are opened, the water flows through conduits in the ground from the canal above into the lock chamber. This lock is empty at the moment, which will allow the bottom gates to be opened so that the boat can enter the lock from the lower water level. But this one is full. There are different kinds of winding gear and paddles. The bottom paddles are often gate paddles, essentially a hole in the gate with a sliding piece of wood or metal which opens and closes over the hole to allow water to flow through. Whatever the gear, safety should be observed and safety latches should be used when opening paddles. When navigating uphill, the water level in the lock should match that of the lower level of the canal, and so water may need to be emptied from the lock chamber. The paddles have been opened here to equalise the water in the lock with the level of the canal below. The lock gates will not open if the level of water in the locks is higher than that below, as the weight of the water will keep the gates closed. Here, the gates are being opened to allow the boat to enter the lock.
It is a personal preference whether the paddles are left open when you move the gate or if you close them first. We tend to leave them open, as here, and then close them whilst we are waiting for the boat to be positioned in the lock. It is important that you are careful while operating locks. The water can be very deep and currents are caused by the moving water. There are many safety signs about on flights of locks if you look for them. The boat should be positioned away from the sill, which is the lip at the top of the end of the locks, level with the bottom of the top gates, and away from anywhere where the water might be directed into the boat. It sounds obvious, but there have been many accidents and lives lost over the years. Currents caused by rushing or draining water can push the boat around inside the lock, so it's a good idea to restrain the boat in the lock using ropes and metal fixtures such as ladders or bollards positioned along the keys. Keeping ropes out of the water is paramount as they could get tangled around the boat's propeller, and if power to the engine is lost, the main way of controlling the boat is lost. When the boat is safely inside the lock chamber, the gates can be closed. It is a good idea, although not always practical, to lean your back against the balance beam and push along the projections in the path with your feet. It is important not to try to rush through the locks. Everything should be monitored constantly and make sure other people know what you are going to do at all times. When the skipper gives the go-ahead, you can slowly let into the water from the top paddles. As the water level changes, ensure the boat is not being thrown about by the turbulence of the water. The restraining ropes will need to be adjusted, shortened as the boat rises up, or lengthened if you are travelling down. Make sure that no part of the boat is caught on the chamber wall if the lock gates, as this can cause the boat to tip. If there's the slightest sign of any problem, close the paddles immediately. You can now see the boat has risen from the lower level of the canal. The top gates can now be opened. A bit of history. The canals in Great Britain played a great part in our Industrial Revolution. The muddy, potholed road system was not suitable for large, heavy loads to be carried across long distances. Staffordshire potters despaired as they sent their finished goods out on trains of pack horses. In the 1700s, rivers were improved to allow transportation of goods via water. And this was followed by the rapid for the 1700s anyway, development of the so-called narrow canals.
As the boat takes time to leave the lock, the top paddles can be closed. The paddles should be carefully wound down using a firm grip on the windlass. If the paddles is left to drop by itself, not only can the impact damage the paddle, there is a good chance that the windlass will hit someone, causing a nasty injury. The windlasses on the Glasson branch are fixed. On other canals, the windlasses are immovable and carried by the boat owners. This flight of locks was opened in 1825, and incoming trade included slate, timber, potatoes, and grain. The main export was coal, which was being taken to Ulverston, North Wales, and Ireland. These locks were actually big enough that the smaller seagoing vessels did not need to unload at the dock, and the cargo would be carried right along the canal. Unless another boat is going to enter the lock, the gates should then be closed. In case there is an excess of water flowing down the lock, the overflow systems are built at each lock. The canals are a great haven for nature. Swans, kingfishers, and the humble duck all have their homes here. Farm animals have peace and tranquility, and a huge drinking trough. Plants flourish, and humans can relax until the next lock.